My name is Kori Dooley. I'm a business analyst with InEight on the completions product. I have been with InEight for about 3 years now. And prior to that, I worked in multiple places in the construction industry, kind of starting from the ground up as a laborer, and then worked my way up to project manager, and then ended up with Kiewit and moved over to InEight from there. Kind of ended up in construction out of default. My dad owned a general contracting and excavation business that was quite successful. And so when I turned about 13, I wanted to be able to afford a car when I turned 16. So I went to work for him just as a laborer, mostly on the excavation side, digging ditches, just being the guy in the ditch with the shovel, operating the D1, as they say. And then slowly but surely throughout high school and whatnot, I worked my way up within my dad's company to just be an equipment operator and eventually a foreman there. Went to college, was not really anticipating going to college, but I actually kind of had a math teacher talk me into it. And she convinced me to go to college and try and get my engineering degree. So while I was there, I ended up continuously working in the excavation industry as an operator and as a foreman for a few companies down in Fort Collins, where I went to Colorado State. Then from there, I was pursuing the engineering degree, and I kind of made the decision that I didn't want to be behind a computer that much. So I switched my major to construction management and got a construction management degree from Colorado State. After that, I went to work in the commercial construction industry, and I was a superintendent and foreman, or superintendent and project manager for a company here in town in Steamboat that built, is kind of the biggest commercial building contractor in town at that time. I worked for them for about 5 years, ended up becoming a project manager with them. Then the economy crashed essentially in about 2008. And so I went ahead and had to move on from commercial construction, and I ended up in more of the industrial sector. I moved out to California and built a geothermal power plant out there. And then I was on my way back from there. I was now kind of doing the traveling roadshow. I was kind of a project engineer and field superintendent out there. It's a smaller company, so you wore a lot of hats. I went from there. They were sending me to a hydroelectric dam in Virginia to be a project engineer on that project. And while that was happening, I ended up, they didn't want me to be out there for a few weeks. So I ended up in Steamboat for a little while. And that's when I ended up getting to work with Kiewit essentially, and going to work for them. I got hired in as a purchasing manager, so I mostly did contracts, and then ended up in more of the operations side for Kiewit, and that's where I really got involved in the technology sector. So I was flying from job site to job site every week and working with the different systems within Kiewit to get everybody trained up and aligned, and then also go back and kind of do some kind of process management on a lot of them, or figure out what was going on that wasn't working from both the construction side and the software side. And I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then I ended up going to work for InEight after that. So I started with InEight in the services group and was going out to customers, and there's just so many different ways that people and companies go about solving problems, that to fix their individual problems is great. In my current role, I do still want to see that happen. I think that's a necessity. We always have to keep that in mind because there's so many different ways of doing things in the construction world that we do have to be able to ebb and flow. In my current role, what gets me out of bed really is I want to see the software, the completions product, actually mature as a product and become a true tool for the quality groups and the commissioning groups so that we can get that, then take that platform and get it into the rest of the suite and have that operate so that you can really look at a project as turnover from the beginning, because that's kind of a key role for things to happen correctly. And so it's going to, for me, what gets me out of bed is making that product better so that eventually everybody on site can call it a tool. To look at the why you're doing things and getting business process around that and looking at ways that you can actually conform or you can change the construction industry, because it does have a lot of things in it that have been that way forever. And I think it's at this point where it's evolving, and to be a part of that, I think would be amazing. I also think just your day-to-day operations, whether you're in construction software or you're in construction, day-to-day, you're never really going to have the same day. Everything's constantly changing. Everything's constantly evolving. There's always different opportunities and different ways to go. As I said earlier, I've done a whole lot of things in the construction industry. I'm at probably kind of my third position in the technology sector of it. And both ways, I think there's always something that you can find interesting, and there's always something that you feel like you can find a value add to, where you produced a better project or you produced a better software product. And so to actually be able to see that in both of those ways. And construction, you can see the actual building, or you can, say, oh, look at that bridge, I built it, which is always a fun thing to be able to say. And then in software, you can actually get reviews back from your customers. And I do still talk to customers, and the fact that they can go, that was a game changer. That particular function was a game changer for our entire team, and it really did help us get this job done. So it's the combination of being able to have difference in your day-to-day, as well as either way you can kind of get a good feel for that end product. You can know that you're actually producing something good in the end.